So I'm not allowed to sleep when I want? Okay then, by user lunatic. This happened when I was living in a dorm. I explained to my roommates that because of my insomnia I can't sleep whenever I want. I have to follow a strict routine and I sleep from 23 to 7. I asked them not to make too much noise when I'm trying to sleep. Previously one of them decided it would be okay to play a song loudly at 23 while I was trying to sleep, which is why I felt like a conversation was necessary. They did not like this, so they complained to the person in charge, who told me that the sleeping hours are from 24 to 6 and if I dislike that I can leave, but I don't have the right to ask anyone to be quiet before 24 or after 6. Alright then. My roommates tend to sleep from 2 to 7 and also during the day from 15 to 17. Now according to the rules, I have every right to be loud during 15 to 17, right? And that's exactly what I did. Every day, when they wanted to sleep, I played music or talked to my phone or invited people over. They couldn't sleep anymore. So eventually they decided that they really need some sleep, and since I won't let them sleep during the day, they chose to sleep at 23, when I would also be asleep. But I wasn't done. You see, they already ruined my routine, so I can't sleep anymore, and keep in mind, I still have the right to be noisy from 23 to 24, and that's exactly what I did. Eventually we had another fight and they asked me to stop and promise to be quiet when I want to sleep. No one bothered my sleep after that. Edit, just to clear some things up. No, I didn't think of a solution before going to college. I didn't have insomnia before going to college. My first semester in the dorm was so terrible that I ended up with anxiety disorder that eventually caused my insomnia. Yes, I did continue living in that dorm despite knowing how difficult it would be with my condition. Why do they have more of a right to stay there than I do? Not everyone is rich enough to get a house. No, I'm not a terribly nice person. No, I didn't use earplugs. I can't sleep with something in my ear. Yes, I should have been given a single room. I had a note from my doctor, but the few single rooms in our dorm were for the students who knew some important people in our college. It was a known fact. They didn't care about my problem. No, I don't understand why it was so wrong of me to expect people to remain quiet while I sleep, but it was also so wrong of me to make noise while other people sleep. Double standard much? So I'm supposed to be quiet for people but never expect people to do the same for me? No, I don't think I could find any compromise. I literally cannot sleep any other way. So what would the compromise even be? Okay, how about I only sleep 3 nights a week? Is that what you have in mind? A terrible manager collapses an entire department, by user bad bitch Herodotus. I worked in an accounting department at a small business. My boss, Gary, was great and gave us lots of autonomy to get everything done. It was a small business, and over the years, as is common in small businesses, I picked up a number of duties that weren't strictly in my job description but were pretty important. We also had a number of processes that were not well documented, but we were understaffed and not able to make any real changes. Things overall were pretty good, though, and our work flowed well and everyone was happy. Not everyone, though. Gary's boss, Carl, recently had taken over as president of the company and wanted to slash costs. Gary was one of the highest paid employees, and Carl tried to get him to take a pay cut or a cut in hours. When Gary refused, Carl fired him and shortly replaced him with Matt, who was much less experienced and much less qualified. Around this time, I used my leverage with Carl to get a solid raise. I knew Carl would be looking to replace me soon like he did Gary, but I was too essential to lose without Gary there either. I figured I had about 6 months, which lined up with about when I was planning to move out of state anyway. So, knowing that when I did leave, my coworkers would be stuck picking up the slack of my job, particularly all the ancillary stuff I had picked up that was not documented at all, I started writing a detailed manual for my own job when I had time here and there. I didn't really care for Matt or Carl, but I figured it would save my coworkers a lot of stress. Matt was a poor accountant and a worse manager. He was an awful micromanager with no concept of the bigger picture. Pretty quickly, he noticed that I was spending time doing all these other duties not in my JD. He told me I was only to work on projects he assigned me directly. I tried to point out all the things that would not get done if I didn't do that. He was having none of it and told me not to worry about it, as it wasn't my job. Sure thing, boss. I stopped doing anything except what he told me to do. And the department started falling apart, customer emails went unanswered, software stopped working with no one to support it, files weren't organized, etc. I normally took care of these and 100 other things, but Matt was pretty clear I'm not to do any of it. I also stopped working on my manual. After a few months of this, but sooner than I expected, I was laid off by Carl and Matt for budgetary reasons. Of course, they listed my job on Indeed that same day, for a laughably low salary. I was given no warning, just sat down for a meeting with the two and walked out the door. Matt didn't allow me to take anything from my desk, access my computer, or say my goodbyes to my co-workers. He was also very clear I was not to retain any company documents or information. Sure thing, boss. So I left, and I heard from co-workers still there that over the next few weeks, things took an even worse nosedive. They weren't able to fill my job, and nobody could cover most of my actual job duties or any of my ancillary duties. By this point, vendors weren't being paid, and payroll wasn't going out on time. And then I got the call. Matt found the file I had left in a conspicuous spot on the network drive, ______ job manual and processes.zip. It was encrypted. What's in it? Oh, just a draft of all my job duties and everything I was responsible for that I worked on during downtime. Why was it even encrypted? Well, it had a bunch of confidential data and passwords in it, boss. What's the password? Sorry boss, I don't know. I didn't retain it after leaving. But it's in my files. In reality, since it wasn't finished, the manual wasn't going to be some panacea for all the company's problems, but I had padded it with a lot of images, so I imagine the file size was pretty attractive. And the password was indeed in my files. If Matt cared to look, he'd find an unlabeled sticky note with a nondescript string of letters and numbers in a random folder in one of my 24 filing cabinets. As an epilogue, about 3 months after I talked to Matt, Carl fired him after discovering what a disaster the department had become. My co-workers both left around the same time for better opportunities. Carl's still been unable to fill any of these jobs, after almost 18 months, so the entire accounting department is staffed by contractors and consultants, who I am sure are costing the company a fortune. I hear the board is looking for a change in company presidents. Turn the water on when using the bathroom, by user Homer J. Simpson 3. My department shares a downstairs bathroom with another department and 2 secretaries. The bathroom is 15 feet from one of the secretaries' desk and the customer service desk. When I started working here, I was told the upstairs bathroom is the shitter, the downstairs bathroom is the pisser. I adhere to this important policy religiously. After 4 months, my boss pulled me aside about the downstairs bathroom. He asked if I was turning the water on when I'm taking a piss and I told him no. The secretary closest to the bathroom, Amanda, had complained that she could hear me pee and it made her uncomfortable. My boss asked me to turn the sink faucet on when I'm in there to appease Amanda. Today, I use the downstairs bathroom and turn the faucet on as requested. As I'm peeing, I felt gas pressure build up. I took the opportunity to push the loudest and longest fart possible. It echoed like a bomb went off. After I finished, I clean up and walk out to see Amanda fuming. Within 3 minutes, my boss gets up to see her because she requested to talk to him. She complained about how she heard me fart and it was unacceptable in the office setting. My boss asked her, was the water running? Amanda said, yeah, but my boss cut her off and said we're done here. He came back with a giant grin and gave me a high five. They told me not to take long breaks, so I decided to take short breaks every 5 minutes, by user Zuru. At work, there was a strict rule about not taking long breaks. So, I decided to follow the rule literally, but in my own way. I started taking a 30-second break every 5 minutes. If I was in a meeting, I'd suddenly raise my hand and say, sorry, quick break, and step out of the room for a few seconds. At first, my colleagues thought I was crazy, but they soon realized I wasn't breaking any rules, because I was taking short breaks exactly as required. The result? Breaks became a part of the office culture, and soon everyone started stopping work every 5 minutes. Eventually, the rule got changed to allow breaks every half hour instead of just once an hour. Judge me doing my job, by user armored_souls. TL, DR, passive-aggressive bully at work questioned how everyone does their job, so I did mine and blocked her access. I work an office job in charge of finance for a European company. There's this mean single woman reaching her 50s at work that always feels the need and privilege to judge everyone else. Her judging ranges from anything to how people do their jobs, their personal life choices, and even their personality and what they wear. The economy has been tough recently and pressure is high within the team, and this has manifested into lots of friction and complaints in all directions, mostly coming from her. One of the many complaints directed at me was that I wasn't protecting our sensitive data enough, saving our monthly reports in a shared drive for others to access. It has been this way for decades before I joined, and no one was any issues with it, with the said sensitive data often printed out and stuck on walls anyway. Normally I just ignore the complaints and carry on my work, as both me and my boss are good at ignoring noisy complaints with no reasoning behind. But this time I decided to maliciously comply, and now have set unique passwords for each and every file with remotely sensitive data. Now not only does she need to keep track of all the passwords I've set, she also now has no access to some data that me and my boss decided was no longer appropriate for her to see, including what budget we have for some of her operating expenses, and now require proof of said costs, otherwise that budget is gone.